So in this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I wish I knew before starting my pressure washing business. So if you're currently thinking of starting a pressure washing business, or you already have a business and you're early on in your journey, take some of these things that I'm going to mention on board because they'll save you time and money in the long run. So I'm going to break this video down into 5 sections: equipment regrets, pricing mistakes, marketing misconceptions, customer communication, and personal growth lessons. Let's get into it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is equipment regrets. So there's a few things that I wish I'd known around equipment before I got started, and the first one is, and it's the biggest one for me, is that you'll outgrow your van in no time. So I had absolutely no experience in vans. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know that I was in the wedding industry. I've never had a reason to have a van. So this was the first one I bought, and although I did have some cash for a bigger van, I didn't want to just spend it all straight away, so I went small. So I went with a Citroen Berlingo. It was great to begin with, and it felt like a big van when I first got it because I'd never had one before. And when I put my kit in, I was like, oh my god, this this doesn't seem that big anymore. And then when I started doing roof cleaning, so I started adding in more kit and then trying to fit a scaffolding tower in there, it was a nightmare. So every job, especially roof cleaning that I'd get to, I'd turn up, open the back doors, and then I'd have to empty everything out, set my kit up, and then when I finished, put everything back in before I left. So that was adding on like literally an hour and a half at the start and an hour and a half at the end of the day for roof cleaning, because there's so much to unload, set up, and then get back in the van. So people did tell me this, so I was aware of it, but I didn't really take it on board. So people did say you want to go a big van to begin with, but I didn't want to just spend 20 grand on a van straight away. But there are other ways that I could have done it. So I could have leased it. I could have paid per month as like a purchase hire. So if you're just starting out and you haven't got a van, 100%, if you can afford it, go bigger to begin with, because you'll outgrow it in no time. And it was getting me frustrated on jobs. So like, because the job, like roof cleaning, for example, and pressure washing as well, it's hard enough on the body. So when you add in a couple of hours of loading kit in and out unnecessarily, it was getting me frustrated, because I was tired anyway, and then I was having to do this, and because it's all jammed in, I'll put something on the screen now to show you how jammed in it was into this Berlingo. Things were getting caught. I was having to like really pull things out to get them out of the van. It was an absolute nightmare. It made me angry. It makes you knackered as well, because it's more effort on your joints and obviously your body and your muscles. And it's just unnecessary, in my opinion. If you can afford a bigger van, 100% buy that from the start or rent it from the start. Don't go small. So this brings me on to the next point, which is a van-mounted system. I was aware of van-mounted systems, and I knew that they would save me money. But again, it comes down to price, and also because I committed to my smaller van, like Berlingos or Citroen Partners or the smaller vans that a lot of people start with, they're not really made for having van-mounted systems. Yes, you can fit them in, but it's a squeeze. But I remember, I think it was February, so I just, barely got started, and I remember calling Rutland Pumps and getting a quote for a van-mounted system, and it came out, I can't remember what the exact one was, so I'm sorry if it was wrong, but it was about £4,000 with VAT, and I was just like, I can't justify that price when I just started out. I've just bought a van, I've just bought all my kit, I'm marketing now, and now to upgrade my kit only a few weeks in and spending £4,000, it didn't seem like it was the right decision. In hindsight, it should have been, because with a van-mounted system, you're not loading stuff in and out of your van, so you've not got that stress or the frustration or the effort on your body. You can also do jobs quicker, so you can rock up, just plug the low pressure hose in, start filling the tank up in your van, and you're good to go. Not long, a few minutes time. Especially if you've already got a bit of water in there, you can just start. So you can do way more jobs a day if you're van mounted. So I was only doing I'd only ever do 2 driveways or patios a day with my old setup. Like maximum, usually 1. But with a van mounted system, there's no reason why you can't do 2, 3, 4 on a long hot summer's day. Why can't you? So if you can, go van mounted. I wish I had just done it, because it would have been less stress, less taxation on the body, and you could have made more money ultimately. More jobs you can do a day, more money you can make. So the next one is have spares of everything. So there's quite a few times last year when I was working when I didn't have spares of kit, and I really should have. The main one being that I remember on my roof cleaning kit, so my Masmatic surface cleaner has a bar that spins around with 2 nozzles on it, and I was out on a job on a roof, and I caught one of the tiles, which does happen sometimes, and it bent it. And then it got worse throughout the day, and eventually it just snapped clean off, and I didn't have a spare. So like, what could I have done? I couldn't have carried on. The roof was like half cleaned. There was mess everywhere. And I was trying to find somewhere who had a replacement. So I was up on the scaffolding tower, literally Googling companies around me or near me that could do it. There's only two. One was 4 hours away, which was Rutland Pumps. And then there was another one in Worcester. Luckily, I wasn't too far away. I was like 25 minutes away. But it was a case of stopping the job, down from the tower, tidy some kit up so it's not just left, driving over, getting it fixed, driving back, starting up again. And it was an absolute nightmare. And it was a harsh lesson. So from then, I've always had a spare of them, of that bar, because they can, if you catch them on a tile, they can snap. And yeah, absolute nightmare. But I didn't know that, didn't think of it, and I wish I had that from the start. And there's other bits of kit as well. Little simple things like the O-rings, like you get the little O-rings in like your lances and your turbo nozzle especially. I didn't realise how often they'd split because of the constant pressure going through them. If you got like a little cheap, if you got a cheaper lance or a cheaper nozzle, the O-rings can just snap and they ping off, and then the water can't come out the end properly. So you have to stop the job, disconnect the head from the lance, pick the snapped O-ring off, put one back in. But when it first happened, I didn't know it happened, so it didn't have any O-rings, so I had to just stop the job until I had it, and then I had to go back once I'd worked out what was going on. Seems stupid, but when you don't know, you don't know. So carry loads of O-rings because they'll snap all of the time. Another thing is spark plugs. I didn't realise that spark plugs can get flooded with water. Oil or petrol can go in, or just debris, or like build-up can stop them working. And when the spark plug goes, you can't start your pressure washer. So a few times it happened to me. I was trying to start and I couldn't work out why it wasn't starting. And then from calling the people who I bought it from, they were like, yeah, it sounds like the spark plug. But I had no idea, didn't have a spare. I went to Homebase, and the specific one I needed for my machine wasn't in. So I had to wait and get one off Amazon. But if I'd had a spare right then, which I do now, would have been no issue, just replace it straight away. So yeah, that's another example of kit failing when you could have a spare and just save you all the time and stress. So the last thing I want to talk about regarding equipment is upgrade as you grow. So early on, obviously I invested in like a starter kit, and they weren't cheap. It wasn't cheap equipment, but it wasn't like the best you can get. It was just a starter bundle, what I could afford, what worked for me at the very beginning. But quickly I realised that I should have upgraded the kit sooner. So when I started earning money, or when you start earning money as well, I think you should look at putting it back into your kit. Not all of it, a lot of it should go into marketing, but you need to upgrade your kit as well as you go. So just an example, when I first started out in like February, I was using a buffer tank, not a van mounted. And I remember it was full, and I tried to empty it by tipping it over full of water, and it fell, and it like broke the attachment of the filter of where you put the hose, so it just snaps clean off. But like some of it was like stuck in, if that it makes sense, to the bin. So all I did was put a load of duct tape around it and just carried on. And that's what I had to do in the moment, because it didn't have a spare. But then that became, the more busier I got, I just didn't ever replace it. So I was just working with this buffer tank bin with duct tape around it, water dripping out of it. And it's just a stupid thing to do, but because when you're in the business, you're not thinking about it, and you don't want to spend too much because you're earning, you're seeing the money come in, but you don't want it going out. And I should have upgraded as I went along. So make sure you do that. And even things like just the lances, like I got kind of like your budget lance to begin with. I should have got a better one, even like a month later when the jobs were coming in. Even like my broom, the end would come off because the attachment, it got like worn away on the thread. So I'd be sweeping sand in or sweeping muck away, and it'd just come off, and I'd constantly be having to put it back in, screw it back on. Just a little thing like that I could have upgraded. I could have gone and sorted it there and then, but I didn't. So upgrade your equipment as you grow, and you'll save time and frustration again, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's making the job easier and making you more efficient. So the next thing I want to talk about is pricing mistakes. So you might have seen me mention this before, and it's around charging a day rate instead of charging per square meter. And someone messaged me about this the other day, about there was a bit of confusion with charging a day rate between charging per square meter. When I say charge a day rate, I don't mean if your day rate's £500, you have to charge £500 a drive. What I mean by that is if your target, so work backwards, find out what you want to earn a year, and then a month, and then a week, and then a day, break it down, work backwards. So if that figure, let's just say that figure is £500 a day for you to hit your annual goal, work out each job based on that. For example, if you can do 2 driveways a day and you need to earn £500, charge £250 a drive. And you know that if you get 2, you're going to hit your goal then. That's what I mean when I say charge a day rate. I don't mean charge one job your day rate. I mean charge jobs based on your day rate to accumulate and hit your goal, if that makes sense. So for me, the problem with per square meter, and it's what I did at the start, and I wish I hadn't at the start. And if you don't know about this, it's when you quote a job, either a roof or a driveway or a patio, you go on something like Google Earth or something, some kind of software like that, and you drop little points and you measure the area, and whatever the area comes out at per square meter, you then charge a price. For example, if it's a 10 meters squared, and you charge £5 a square meter, it's £50 a job. Let's just say that to make it easy. But for me, it's harder. I used to think like a cleaner, not a business. And I'll come on to this later. But to think like a business would be thinking about goals and daily targets and monthly targets. When you're just thinking about as a cleaner, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's what most people do. It's what I did at the start. You just think about that job itself. So when you're charging per square meter, you don't know what job's coming in next. You might get a really big job, you might get a small job, and it's harder to predict, and it's harder to grow, in my opinion. And it's a bit messy when you're charging a set rate. This is 250 quid a drive. This is 850 quid a roof, whatever. Obviously, it would change with bigger drives and smaller drives. Let's just say the average is, you know what it is. It's really easy then to know how many jobs you need a day, a week, a month to hit your goal. And I wasn't doing that for the first maybe 6 months or so. It's only when I started working with a mentor. I'll come on to this in a bit. But when I started working with a mentor, he showed me why a day rate is better, and then it kind of clicked when I heard that, and I was like, that's so much better, so much easier to grow. So I wish I charged on a day rate instead of per square meter to begin with. Another thing I wish I'd known is customers will always try and knock you down. It's something about home-based businesses. I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously this happens in a lot of industries, but there's something about home-based business where people feel that they can try and knock you down on price. I didn't realise how often it would happen, but it's part of the game. It's part of the industry. So if you know it's going to happen, you can either raise your prices to begin with and expect to be knocked down, or just stand firm on your prices. People will always, if you go and quote a driveway 250 quid, could you do it for 220? I was expected to pay 220, or can you? I had 200 in mind. They'll dictate to you what they think they should pay. So you either, like I said, raise your prices to begin with and know you're going to get knocked down, or just stand firm with your prices, and that's your price, and that's that. So because people always knock you down, and it's easy when you start out, especially if you quote someone 250 quid and they say no, I was thinking of paying more, 200. Can you do me a discount? It's very easy to say yes straight away because you want the work in. Even if you're not just starting out, it's easy to say yes if work is slow. But think about what you're worth. Think about your time. Think about your fuel, your chemicals, all of that kind of stuff. Make sure you're charging what you're meant to charge, because customers always knock you down. But so stand firm. I wish I'd stood firm because I gave in quite a lot at the start. And then this only affected me at the start, luckily, because I was busy for a lot of the year once I started marketing correctly. But if work is slow, don't lower your prices. It's really easy to do that. If you haven't got a lot of work in and you think, oh my God, people aren't going to pay £250 for a driveway, people aren't going to spend £850 on a roof, it's really easy to offer like a half price sale on your socials or something, or just think that you have to go cheaper to get more work in. But the reality is you'll attract the wrong customers, because the customers who are willing to pay the least do complain the most, and they expect the world. There's some sort of psychology there. I'm not going to go into it, but it is completely true. So don't panic if work is slow. Don't just knock all your prices down, because you're going to be burnt out. You're not going to earn as much as you should for all the work that you're putting in. You're going to attract the wrong customers, and it's going to make you feel a bit rubbish. So don't do that. If work is slow, don't just cut your prices. That's not the first thing you should do. Look at your marketing and look at ways of getting work in instead of just reducing prices, for sure. So now on to marketing mistakes. And if you've seen my videos before, obviously I champion Facebook ads a lot. I talk about it a lot. Facebook ads for me is what has grown my business, and it's what's grown all of the other successful businesses in the industry that I know. So it has to work, right? If done correctly, they work. If done incorrectly, yes, they don't work. So, but the first thing I wish I'd knew is run Facebook ads from day one. So I'd grown previous businesses on Facebook ads, so I knew it worked, and I knew they worked. Sorry, but when I was talking to people in the exterior cleaning industry, they were saying it's Google ads, it's leafleting, it's word of mouth, that kind of stuff. So for some reason, I just abandoned my logic on Facebook ads, even though I know they work in multiple industries. And I tried these Google ads and leaflets and stuff, and they didn't work for me. Not really. They bought me back a bit of money at the start, but nothing compared to when I started marketing on Facebook ads. It's night and day, the difference. So I wish I'd just gone straight in with Facebook ads, because I know they work. I know how to do them. But for some reason I didn't. I just kind of listened to other people in these Facebook groups and stuff. So for me, not running Facebook ads from day one is a mistake, and I wish I had done. I wish I'd knew to do that from the beginning. And another thing I wish I'd knew is the phone is not just going to start ringing. So I remember, I think it was like the December. So it was the December before I started in January. And I remember thinking, it was like the last week in December, and I was thinking, right, so next week's January, the phone's going to start ringing. I'm going to be full of gutters next week. Even though I wasn't marketing, even though I just had a website and a few socials up, I assumed that the phone's going to start ringing because that's what you offer. And the reality is, unless you market heavily at the beginning, it's not going to start ringing. It's just not. So don't just sit there and think, right, here we go. The phone's going to start now. Any minute now, there's going to be a booking in. It doesn't happen. I didn't get any from the start. And a lot of people who start out won't get any bookings unless they market and get themselves out there. So yeah, don't just sit on it waiting for it to happen. Go and make it happen. And the last thing I want to talk about around marketing is automation. So with marketing, you've got to be consistent with things like Google My Business and posting on your social media channels. The thing is, though, when you're out cleaning, you don't realize how much effort it is to keep posting every day on your Google My Business, keep posting, regular updates throughout the week on social media. And I wish I knew to automate it to begin with. So in my CRM system, and there's plenty of them out there, the one we use, I can automate everything. So I have a post a day on my Google My Business updates, all automated. So once a week, every Monday, I go in and I create 7 different posts for Google My Business, and I just schedule them for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I can just leave it then. Don't have to worry about that. And then Google My Business is getting activity showing Google that I'm still active, and it pushes me up helps to push me up the rankings. So if you can automate that, and the same with the socials. So I mean, when you're out cleaning, obviously you're driving to the job, you're cleaning, you're driving back from the job, you're having lunch, you've got your own personal lives as well. You've got to eat, sleep, you've got your family to look after. Trying to schedule regular content on your socials is really, really hard. And if you don't automate it, it's inconsistent, and you just don't get around to it, and it's really time consuming and just takes away from your free time. So if you can, again, in a CRM system, automate all your posts, create them a few weeks in advance, spend like a couple of hours just uploading it to your CRM, scheduling them for the day you want them to go on all your channels, and just leave them then, and then they'll just post automatically. You don't have to worry about it, and then your social content is still getting taken care of, because social content is huge in this industry. So make sure you automate it and make sure it's consistent. So now we're on to customer communications, and the first thing that I want to talk about is not checking the water flow rate at a customer's address. So especially in busy season, when I started getting really busy, I wasn't going out to every property that I was booking in, because I physically couldn't. I was doing all the cleaning, the marketing, the running the business. I could not go out and check every single property for every inquiry that came in. So quite a few times I'd book a job, forget to ask them questions like, have you got water pressure? What kind of drainage have you got, etc. And I just turn up, start trying to fill the buffer tank, and the water's dripping out. It's such a slow rate. I'm thinking, oh my God. And it might, honestly, sometimes it will take an hour to fill a buffer tank up, and then you can rip through that water in like 10 to 15 minutes, and then you got to wait another hour, and you do that all day. And a job that probably should take 90 minutes to an hour is taking you 4 or 5 hours, and that happened quite a few times last year. So communicate clearly with the customer. If you can go and check their property, if you can't check their property in person, ask the right questions, make sure it's clear, let them get all the information that you need straight away, because it will save you so much time and hassle on a job. So same with the drainage, just mentioned the drainage. When I wasn't checking properties, or I wasn't asking the customers about their drainage, I get there, start cleaning, and then all the water's got nowhere to go. They haven't got drains, so you push it onto the grass, or wherever you can, onto the road if you can. There's like slopes on the driveway or patio, so all the water's building up. Yes, I could have bought a mud sucker, but I didn't have one, didn't know about them. So just, if it had been communicated to me obviously it's my fault, but if I'd communicated properly with the customer or checked it in person and had made it very clear that they've got poor drainage, I could have factored that into the price and how long the job would take as well. And again, less stress, less hassle. And then another thing that I'd like to mention is payment terms. So I've always taken payments from customers via bank transfer, which obviously is good because there's not someone to take a percentage of it. There's not software. Like if you do it, if you have like card readers and payments and stuff like that, they take like a certain percent, which is annoying. But the thing is with payment terms, by doing bank transfer, you're opening the possibility of them either not paying or taking ages to pay. And no one's ever not paid. I've always chased them and it's happened. But sometimes, obviously, you want it quickly because you've done the job straight away. My payment terms were, due upon completion of job. Some people can take weeks, and you can't keep chasing people because you're just going to annoy them and they're going to just ignore you. You can't control it. So something that I am doing this year is like an instant pay method, where they pay there and then with their card or their Apple Pay or whatever, before I leave the property. Saves you a headache, saves you stressing about are they going to pay or not, and it's just done. That is paid there and then, move on to the next job. So payment terms is something to think about, and I wish I had done that instant payment straight away from the start. So the last thing I want to talk about is personal growth lessons, and it might seem a bit wishy-washy this, but it's really important. And the first one is your journey is your own. Don't compare yourself to other companies. And it's something that I'm guilty of, and I was really guilty of at the start. So when I first started, I expected to be like a millionaire in like a week. I expected all the bookings to be coming in, fully booked, rushed off my feet. And I was looking at other companies, and I was seeing, why are they so busy? Why are they doing so well? Why have I not got 3 roofs, 4 roofs this week, and they have? And the reality is, when you first start off, it's not going to be that way. Those companies are either heavily marketing from day one, and even if they are, you have to take some time to get established anyway. So these established companies have been putting years of work in, and I was just expecting to be as busy as them straight away. That's not the case. Your journey is your own. Focus on your own journey. It's easy on social media to look at other companies, even looking at a company like me, putting loads of videos out there. You can take inspiration from people in the industry doing it, but don't compare yourself to them. Don't worry about them. Focus on yourself. How can you make your business better? And don't worry about what other people are doing. It's good, like I said, it's good to keep an eye on people to see what's going on, what they're doing. Chat to people, network, but don't compare yourself, because ultimately your journey is your own. Another thing I wish I'd known before I started is you will learn much more just by doing. So obviously I did training courses. I did like a pressure washing course, a roof cleaning course, a second roof cleaning course. I did an online chemical training course. I looked at forums, joined Facebook groups, Discords, and you might be doing the same things too. But I learned the most just by doing, just by being in a real life scenario, going out into the field, running a business. I'd experienced it running businesses before, but if you haven't, go and experience running a business. All the faults and also the wins as well. You will experience harsh truths. You'll experience great wins, and you'll just learn by physically doing the job, going out there. Just do it. When you're on your own, you've only got yourself there, really. Unless you might have people that you can fall back on and speak to for advice and stuff. But if you're just out there on your own, working, dealing with customers, doing jobs, working with chemicals, doing all this, you will learn so much more doing that than just by doing courses. So yes, be prepared. Go and do your courses, do your training, learn before you go in. But you'll learn way more just by doing it out in the field. And the very last thing I wish I knew before starting, and it's a big one for anyone watching, is think like a business, not a cleaner. And I don't mean that to sound derogatory or any way, because I'm a cleaner too. But a lot of people get stuck in the trap, and this happens in lots of industries, but obviously this is relevant to the cleaning industry. So many cleaners just think like a cleaner. All their focus is the job, the equipment, the technique, all that kind of stuff. And that was me to begin with. The very start, I wasn't thinking of how to grow. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't thinking every day like a business. I was in the business, not working on the business, and that's a big one. So I started having a mentor, Matt Brookfield, who's great. If anyone wants to inquire about him, let me know and I'll drop you his details. But I started working with him, I think it was June, so about 6 months into my business. And he showed me the importance of thinking like a business, not a cleaner. And when you do that, your mindset shifts to not just thinking about the cleaning. Yes, do a good job cleaning. Yes, have the right equipment, do all this kind of stuff. But your focus should be marketing and growing a business, because ultimately that's going to get you more work and it's going to give you the lifestyle that you want. You can be the best cleaner, I've said this before, the best cleaner, best kit, best technique, but if you've got no leads and you've got no customers, what's the point? Think like a business, because it will benefit you much more in the future. So those are some examples of things I wish I knew before I'd started in this industry. If you're just starting out, like I said, hopefully some of these things might help you and help you fast track your way to success. You'll learn as you go along. You'll make your own mistakes, of course you will. But if you can take some of these things and implement them into your business when you start out, you'll save yourself a lot of time and hassle and frustration. And ultimately, it's up to you though. So go and do it yourself. Go and experience everything yourself. Go and make your own mistakes, because as I said earlier, it's your own journey. But hopefully this video has helped you in some way. And even if you're looking to grow your current business, take some of these mistakes that I've made and implement them into your business, and hopefully it'll help you out. So thanks so much. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one.